Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you forgot how to love yourself? Have you ever spent every waking moment building another person's future, only to discover one day that there was no place left for you in it? If you've ever sacrificed everything for someone you loved, then stay with me. Because this isn't just a story about a mother and her son. It's about the quiet heartbreak that happens when the child you carried through every storm decides you're no longer worth carrying in his memories. And sometimes, the cruelest goodbye isn't spoken with angry words. It's spoken with silence. The first thing people noticed about Eleanor wasn't her gray hair. It wasn't the wrinkles around her gentle eyes or the old cardigan she wore almost every winter. It was her smile. A smile so warm that strangers often smiled back without realizing why. No one knew that behind that smile lived 26 years of sacrifice. 26 years of pretending everything was okay. 26 years of choosing her son over herself. Eleanor became a widow when she was only 29. Her husband, Michael, died in a construction accident while repairing the roof of an elementary school. One moment he was laughing with coworkers. The next, someone was knocking on Eleanor's front door. She still remembered the police officer standing there, removing his cap before speaking. "I'm so sorry." Those 3 words shattered her world. She was left with a tiny house, a mountain of unpaid bills, and a little 3-year-old boy who kept asking, "When is Daddy coming home?" Every time he asked, a piece of her heart broke all over again. She never had the courage to tell him immediately. Instead, every night she hugged him tightly and whispered, "Daddy loves you very much." Little Noah would smile. "I know. He'll bring me another toy truck." Eleanor would kiss his forehead before quietly walking into the bathroom, closing the door, covering her mouth so he wouldn't hear her crying. Because mothers have a strange gift. They somehow learn how to cry without making a sound. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. Money disappeared faster than hope. The refrigerator stayed almost empty. Some nights she told Noah, "I'm not hungry tonight." He believed her. He happily finished the last bowl of soup while she drank nothing but warm water. After he fell asleep, her stomach growled loudly enough to echo through the silent kitchen. She simply smiled. Tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow became another tomorrow. And another. Eleanor worked anywhere people would hire her. She cleaned offices before sunrise. She washed dishes in a diner until midnight. On weekends she ironed clothes for neighbors. Her hands became rough. Her back constantly ached. Sometimes she was so exhausted she fell asleep sitting on the bus ride home. Yet every morning, she still found enough energy to wake Noah with a cheerful voice. "Rise and shine, sleepyhead." He never saw the blisters hidden beneath her gloves. He never noticed how swollen her feet became after standing for 14 hours. Children rarely notice sacrifices. Not because they don't care. Because they trust their parents enough to believe life is supposed to feel safe. One rainy afternoon Noah came home from school carrying a flyer. "Mom." He burst through the front door. "Our class is going on a science trip." Eleanor smiled. "That sounds exciting." His excitement slowly faded. "It costs $100. Her heart skipped. $100 might as well have been 1,000. She had only $37 left after paying the electricity bill. She forced another smile. "When do they need it?" "Tomorrow." That night she searched every drawer. Every old purse. Every coat pocket. Coins rolled across the kitchen table. Pennies. Nickels. Dimes. Not enough. She quietly opened the small wooden box where she kept the last gift Michael had ever given her. A delicate silver necklace. It wasn't expensive. But it was the only thing she had left that still smelled like happier days. She held it against her chest. "I hope you'll forgive me." The next morning, the necklace was gone. The science trip was paid. Noah hugged her tightly before running toward the school bus. "You're the best mom ever." Those 6 words erased an entire night of tears. She stood outside waving until the bus disappeared around the corner. Only then did she whisper, "I hope one day you still think that." Years passed like turning pages in an old book. Noah grew taller. His voice became deeper. He became one of the smartest students in school. Teachers constantly praised him. "You should be proud." Eleanor always answered the same way. "I already am." She attended every school event, every football game, every award ceremony. Even when she had worked all night, she never missed one. One winter evening Noah walked into the kitchen carrying an acceptance letter. "Mom." His hands trembled. "I got into college." For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Eleanor laughed through tears and wrapped him in the tightest hug she had ever given. "My little boy. You did it." "No, Mom." He smiled. "We did it." Those words filled every broken corner of her heart. She believed, with all her soul, that every sacrifice had finally been worth it. She had no idea that life was quietly preparing a test far more painful than poverty. A test that wouldn't ask how much she loved her son. It would ask how much heartbreak a mother's heart could survive before it finally gave up. And she was about to meet the young woman who would make her son choose between the woman who gave him life and the woman he believed he couldn't live without. What happens when the child who once reached for your hand begins pulling it away? It never happens all at once. It starts with missed phone calls, shorter conversations, birthdays that become "I'll make it up to you." And one day, you realize the little boy who once couldn't sleep without hearing your voice has gone weeks without asking how you're doing. Sometimes love doesn't disappear. It simply gets crowded out. And that's exactly how Eleanor began losing Noah. College changed Noah. Not overnight. Slowly. The shy little boy who used to wave at his mother until she disappeared from sight became a confident young man who walked across campus with his head high. Every Sunday evening, he still called. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart. Have you eaten?" "Yeah." "Are you sleeping enough?" "I'll try." "Don't forget your jacket. It's getting cold." He laughed. "Mom. I'm 21. And you'll still catch a cold." They laughed together. For a while, nothing seemed different. Eleanor would sit by the phone every Sunday afternoon with a cup of tea she rarely finished. She never answered on the first ring. She liked pretending she wasn't waiting. But the truth was, from noon onward, every sound outside made her glance toward the phone. When it finally rang, her face lit up like Christmas morning. One 15-minute conversation could make her entire week. She never told Noah that. She didn't want him to feel guilty. A mother's happiness has a strange habit of hiding itself. One afternoon, Noah came home during spring break. The old house suddenly felt alive again. Eleanor cooked everything he loved. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, homemade apple pie. She hummed while cooking, the same tune Michael used to whistle. When Noah walked into the kitchen, he laughed. "Mom." "What?" "You made enough food for 20 people." She shrugged with a grin. "I wasn't sure how hungry college makes people." He wrapped his arms around her. "I missed this." She held him a little longer than usual. "I missed you more." For that weekend, everything felt perfect. Until Saturday evening. Noah looked at his phone. Again. And again. His smile was different. Lighter. Almost nervous. Eleanor noticed. Mysterious messages? He rubbed the back of his neck. "Just, someone." Her eyes sparkled. "Oh?" He laughed. "Mom." "What?" I'm allowed to be curious. He hesitated. There's this girl. Eleanor's heart skipped. Not from fear. From joy. My little boy has fallen in love. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Tell me about her. His face brightened in a way she hadn't seen before. Her name is Vanessa. For the next hour, he talked nonstop. How smart Vanessa was. How beautiful her smile looked. How she loved traveling. How she dreamed of opening her own business. How she could make everyone laugh. Eleanor listened quietly. Every now and then she smiled. Not because she knew Vanessa, but because she loved hearing Noah so happy. When he finally finished, she teased him. So, I think someone's in love. His ears turned red. Maybe. She laughed. No maybe about it. Before going to bed, Eleanor stood in front of Michael's old photograph. Our boy has grown up. She smiled through watery eyes. I wish you were here to see him. A month later, Noah called. Mom. You sound excited. I want you to meet someone. When? This weekend. Eleanor nearly dropped the phone. She spent the entire week cleaning the already spotless house. She bought fresh flowers. Washed every curtain. Even baked 3 different desserts because she couldn't decide which one Vanessa might like. Friday night. She stood in front of her mirror. Do I look too old? She whispered the question to herself before laughing. Of course I do. Still. She chose her nicest dress. Not to impress Vanessa, but because first impressions matter. Especially when someone might become family. Saturday afternoon. A sleek black car stopped outside the tiny house. Noah stepped out first. Then Vanessa. She was beautiful. Perfect makeup. Designer handbag. Elegant clothes. She looked like someone who had never worried about paying rent. Eleanor opened the door with a warm smile. You must be Vanessa. Vanessa smiled politely. You must be Noah's mother. Not Mom. Not Mrs. Carter. Just Noah's mother. A tiny detail. One Eleanor ignored. Come in. Lunch began pleasantly enough. Eleanor asked gentle questions. What do your parents do? My father owns several real estate companies. Oh. That's wonderful. Vanessa smiled. My mother spends most of her time traveling. Noah proudly looked at Vanessa every time she spoke. Eleanor noticed. It reminded her of the way Michael used to look at her. Young love had always been beautiful. Then Vanessa glanced around the small house. Her smile remained. But something in her eyes changed. So. This house is cozy. Eleanor smiled. It's old. But it's home. Vanessa nodded slowly. I've never actually been in a neighborhood like this before. Noah laughed awkwardly. Vanessa continued. I mean, it's interesting. Interesting. Such a harmless word. Yet somehow. It felt heavy. While washing dishes later, Eleanor accidentally overheard Vanessa speaking softly in the living room. I didn't know you grew up like this. Noah answered quietly. Like what? You know. The neighborhood. The tiny house. It's just different. He laughed nervously. I guess. Vanessa lowered her voice even more. My parents would probably faint. Eleanor froze. The plate in her hand suddenly felt much heavier. She told herself she was imagining things. Maybe Vanessa didn't mean anything bad. Maybe she simply came from a different world. Before leaving, Vanessa hugged Eleanor politely. It was nice meeting you. You too, dear. As they drove away, Eleanor stood on the porch waving. Noah smiled and waved back. Vanessa didn't. She was already looking at her phone. Eleanor watched the car disappear. Then quietly walked back inside. The house felt strangely empty again. She looked at the 3 untouched slices of apple pie. They were her favorite, she whispered to no one. Weeks turned into months. Vanessa became a regular part of Noah's life. Then, something changed. Sunday phone calls became every other Sunday. Then once a month. Then, sometimes they didn't happen at all. Whenever Eleanor called, Noah sounded distracted. Sorry, Mom. We're about to have dinner. Can I call you later? Later rarely came. One rainy evening, Eleanor sat by the window with 2 mugs of tea. One for herself. One out of habit. The second mug slowly turned cold. She smiled sadly. What am I doing? She poured it down the sink. That was the first time she admitted to herself. Her son was beginning to build a new life. And maybe there wasn't much room left in it for her. But what Eleanor didn't know was that every day, while she was missing her son, someone else was quietly convincing him that the happiest future he could have was one without his mother in it. People don't always lose their children to distance. Sometimes they lose them one conversation at a time. One suggestion at a time. One whispered sentence that slowly becomes someone else's truth. By the time you realize what's happening, the person you raised no longer sounds like the child you knew. And Eleanor was about to hear words she never imagined could come from the little boy who once cried whenever she left him at school. Almost a year had passed since Noah introduced Vanessa. Eleanor had gotten used to the silence. She no longer waited by the phone every Sunday. She told herself it was because Noah was busy. He had graduated with honors, landed a promising job at a marketing firm, and moved into a modern apartment across town. Whenever neighbors asked, "Does your son visit often?" she smiled proudly. "Oh, he's building his future. That's what young people should do." She always defended him. Even when he forgot Mother's Day. Even when he missed her birthday. Even when 3 months passed without seeing his face. A mother's heart has a strange way of protecting the very person breaking it. One Thursday afternoon, there was a knock at her door. Eleanor opened it, expecting the mail carrier. Instead, there stood Noah. For a split second, she couldn't breathe. "Noah?" He smiled. "Hi, Mom." Before he could say another word, she wrapped her arms around him. "Oh, my boy. I've missed you." He hugged her back, but only for a moment. "I've missed you too." She pulled away and held his face in both hands. "You've lost weight." He laughed. "You always say that." "Because it's always true." She hurried into the kitchen. "Sit down. I'll make your favorite sandwiches." "Mom, you don't have to." "I know. I want to." Within minutes the kitchen smelled of fresh bread and coffee. Noah looked around. Nothing had changed. The old clock still ticked above the stove. Michael's photograph still sat on the shelf. The faded curtains were the same ones his mother had sewn by hand years ago. It felt safe. As they ate, Eleanor noticed Noah checking his phone every few minutes. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." "Work?" He hesitated. "Vanessa." Eleanor smiled gently. "She must really miss you." He looked at the screen and chuckled. "She just likes knowing where I am." Eleanor nodded. "You should answer if she's worried." "No, it's fine." A few seconds later, the phone buzzed again. Then again. Then again. Noah sighed. "I should probably call her." "Go ahead." He stepped onto the porch. The kitchen window was slightly open. Eleanor wasn't trying to listen. But voices carry in quiet neighborhoods. "I told you I was with my mom." "No, I'll be home soon." I'm serious, Vanessa. No. Please don't start. When he came back inside, his smile looked forced. Everything all right? Yeah. He picked up his coffee. It's nothing. But Eleanor noticed his hands trembling ever so slightly. The weeks passed. One evening Noah invited Eleanor to dinner at his apartment. She spent nearly an hour deciding which sweater to wear. Before leaving, she baked a homemade peach pie. No matter how old he gets, she whispered with a smile, he'll always love this. When she arrived, Vanessa opened the door. Oh. You came. Her voice sounded surprised. Not happy. Just surprised. Eleanor smiled warmly. I hope I'm not late. No. We just weren't expecting. Vanessa stopped herself. Come in. The apartment was beautiful. Large windows. Modern furniture. Everything looked expensive. Noah walked over and kissed his mother's forehead. I'm glad you're here. For a little while. Things felt normal. They talked about work. Movies. Weather. Then dinner was served. Halfway through the meal, Eleanor admired the apartment. You've done a wonderful job decorating. Vanessa smiled proudly. Actually, I chose everything. It shows. You have lovely taste. Vanessa leaned back in her chair. I like things that look refined. Eleanor nodded. I've never really had an eye for decorating. Vanessa glanced toward the old handbag Eleanor had carried for years. I noticed. Noah shifted uncomfortably. Vanessa. What? I was complimenting her. Eleanor laughed softly, trying to ease the tension. Oh, she's right. My handbag is older than both of you. No one laughed. The silence lingered. After dinner, Noah stepped out to take an important work call. For the first time, Eleanor and Vanessa were alone. Vanessa folded her arms. I've been wanting to ask you something. Of course. Do you expect Noah to take care of you forever? The question landed like ice water. Eleanor blinked. I'm sorry? I mean, you're getting older. Eventually you'll need help. Eleanor smiled gently. I've never expected my son to carry my life. Vanessa tilted her head. But he already does. I don't think he feels that way. He worries about you constantly. Eleanor's smile faded. I've always told him to live his own life. Vanessa looked directly into her eyes. Then maybe you should. For a long moment. Neither woman spoke. When Noah returned, Eleanor had already forced her smile back into place. She hugged them both goodbye. I had a lovely evening. Vanessa smiled politely. I'm glad. But her eyes never softened. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She replayed every word. Maybe she was being too sensitive. Maybe Vanessa hadn't meant anything hurtful. She didn't want to believe otherwise. Because if she did, she would have to admit that the woman her son loved didn't want her in his life. The following weekend, Noah visited again. He seemed distracted. They sat on the porch watching the rain. Suddenly he spoke. Mom. Have you ever thought about selling the house? She looked at him. Why? It's old. It needs repairs. You could move somewhere smaller. Eleanor smiled. This house has been my whole life. I know. But maybe it's time. She looked at the photograph of Michael hanging near the front door. Every scratch in the floor carried a memory. Every wall had watched Noah grow. I'll stay here as long as I can. Noah looked away. Yeah. Maybe. For the first time, she noticed that he didn't argue. He simply seemed disappointed. As if her answer would complicate something. Something he wasn't ready to tell her. 3 days later. Vanessa invited Noah to dinner. She lit candles, poured wine, waited until dessert before speaking. Noah. Yes? I've been thinking about our future. He smiled. So have I. I want us to get married. His face lit up. I'd love that. She reached across the table and held his hand. But before we do, we need to solve one problem. He frowned. What problem? She looked him straight in the eyes. Your mother. Noah slowly withdrew his hand. My mother? Vanessa nodded. You can't keep living with one foot in our future and the other in her past. He stared at her in disbelief. What are you saying? She took a slow breath. I'm saying, if we're going to build a life together, you need to decide who comes first. Noah's smile vanished. His heart pounded. He never imagined the woman he loved would ask him to make a choice no son should ever have to make. And the words she spoke next would change every life forever. Have you ever watched someone you love stand at a crossroads, knowing that no matter which path they choose, someone will end up with a broken heart? Sometimes life doesn't ask impossible questions. People do. One sentence. One demand. One selfish condition. And suddenly, years of love begin to crumble. What Noah was about to hear would echo in his mind for months. But what Eleanor was about to hear would echo in her heart for the rest of her life. The restaurant had almost emptied. Only a few couples remained, speaking softly over candlelight. Noah looked across the table at Vanessa, hoping she would smile and tell him she was joking. Instead, she calmly took a sip of her wine. I'm serious. He swallowed hard. What exactly are you asking me? Vanessa leaned forward. I'm asking you to choose the life you really want. My mother isn't stopping me from having a life. No? She raised an eyebrow. Then why do you visit her every chance you get? I barely visit anymore. Yet every conversation somehow ends with your mother. Noah sighed. She's alone. Vanessa shrugged. Lots of people are alone. That doesn't make them your responsibility forever. Those words hit Noah like a slap. She's my mother. And I'm the woman you're planning to marry. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Then Vanessa quietly placed a small velvet box on the table. Inside was an engagement ring. His eyes widened. You. I bought it myself. She smiled. I knew you'd never spend this much. He laughed nervously. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. She gently pushed the ring closer to him. But I won't wear it. Until I know I'll always come first. That night, Noah couldn't sleep. Vanessa's words kept repeating in his head. You'll always choose her. You'll never truly leave your past. A husband should put his wife first. He turned over in bed. Closed his eyes. Opened them again. Every memory came rushing back. His mother standing in the rain waiting for his school bus. His mother sewing patches onto his torn jeans. His mother pretending she had already eaten while secretly drinking only water. He buried his face in the pillow. Why is this happening? The next morning, he called his best friend, Ethan. I need advice. 20 minutes later they were sitting in a small coffee shop. Ethan listened quietly. Then he frowned. So let me get this straight. Vanessa wants you to stop seeing your mom? Not exactly. Then what exactly? Noah stared into his coffee. She says if we're married, Mom shouldn't be part of our daily lives. Ethan blinked. What? She says we'll never be independent otherwise. Ethan shook his head slowly. My friend. That's not independence. That's isolation. Noah rubbed his temples. You don't understand. No. I understand perfectly. Ethan leaned closer. The woman who stayed awake every night when you had a fever. The woman who skipped meals so you could eat. The woman who worked herself nearly to death. She's suddenly the problem? Noah looked away. You don't know Vanessa. I don't need to. I know this much. A woman who loves you doesn't ask you to stop loving your mother. Those words lingered long after Ethan left. But they weren't the only words in Noah's mind. Vanessa's voice was louder. Always louder. Over the next few weeks, the arguments became more frequent. Every time Noah visited Eleanor, Vanessa became upset. If she's lonely, she can make friends. If she needs help, she can hire someone. If she loves you, she'll let you go. At first Noah defended his mother, then he simply stayed quiet. Silence slowly became agreement. Eleanor noticed the change immediately. Whenever Noah visited, his smile disappeared quickly. He checked the time constantly. His phone never stopped vibrating. She tried pretending not to notice. One afternoon she brought out an old photo album. Remember this? Noah smiled despite himself. There he was at 5 years old. Covered in chocolate cake. Laughing so hard he had frosting on his eyebrows. Eleanor laughed. You insisted you could bake by yourself. You nearly burned the kitchen down. Noah chuckled. I completely forgot. You cried because the cake collapsed. You told me. He smiled. That ugly cakes taste just as sweet. She nodded. And they do. For a few precious minutes. He felt like that little boy again. Safe. Loved. Home. Then his phone rang. Vanessa. He answered immediately. Hi. No, I'm still here. I'll leave now. I said I'm leaving. Eleanor quietly closed the photo album. You don't have to rush. I know. But. She smiled before he could finish. Go. I understand. He stood awkwardly. I'll come back next week. She smiled warmly. I'll make your favorite soup. He nodded. I'd like that. He never came the following week. Or the week after. Nearly a month later. Eleanor was dusting the living room when she heard another knock. She smiled. Noah. She hurried to the door. But it wasn't him. It was Vanessa. Standing alone. Elegant as always. Holding a designer handbag. Eleanor. Her voice was polite. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Eleanor smiled kindly. Not at all. Please come in. Vanessa looked around the familiar little house. It hasn't changed. Eleanor poured tea. What brings you here? Vanessa wrapped both hands around the warm cup. I'll be honest. I don't think Noah can. Eleanor's smile faded slightly. What do you mean? Vanessa took a slow breath. He loves you. I know. But. He'll never fully leave you. Eleanor looked confused. I've never asked him to. I believe you. But feelings don't work that way. She placed her cup on the table. I want a husband whose first thought is his wife. I don't want to compete with his mother. Eleanor answered softly. You're not competing. You could have fooled me. The room fell silent. Then Vanessa spoke the words Eleanor would never forget. If you truly love your son, let him go. Eleanor's eyes searched the young woman's face. I already have. Vanessa slowly stood. No. You haven't. Because every time he walks through this door, he remembers who he used to be. And I need him to become someone else. Those words pierced deeper than any insult. Not because they were loud, but because they revealed the truth. Vanessa didn't hate Eleanor. She simply wanted a life where Eleanor no longer existed. Vanessa walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned around one last time. I've given Noah a choice. It's either a future with me, or a life where he'll always be tied to you. The front door closed. The house became painfully quiet. Eleanor remained standing in the middle of her living room. Her tea had gone cold. So had her hands. She slowly looked at the family photograph sitting on the fireplace. One picture. One little boy smiling between his mother and father. She picked it up with trembling fingers. A tear landed on the glass. I never wanted him to choose. She whispered into the empty room. I only wanted him to remember that before anyone else loved him, his mother did. That evening, Eleanor made a decision that she believed would save her son's happiness. She had no idea. It would cost her almost everything. Sometimes the deepest love doesn't fight to stay, it quietly steps aside. Not because it hurts less, but because it loves more. There are mothers who will battle the whole world for their children. And then there are mothers who will let the whole world take them away if it means their children might smile again. Eleanor had spent 27 years protecting Noah from pain. Now, she was about to protect him from herself. Even if it broke what was left of her heart. That night, the little house felt unbearably quiet. The old clock on the wall ticked louder than ever. Tick. 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 Every second sounded like another memory slipping away. Eleanor sat in Michael's old rocking chair, holding the faded photograph of the three of them. She traced Noah's tiny face with her finger. You used to cry if I left the room for 2 minutes, she whispered. A faint smile appeared. You'd run after me with those little feet, calling, Mom. Wait for me. Her smile disappeared as quickly as it came. Now I'm the one watching you walk away. She looked toward Michael's photograph. I've tried, Michael. Her voice cracked. I've tried to be enough. I don't know what else to do. The room answered only with silence. The following morning, Eleanor opened the old wooden chest beneath her bed. Inside were the treasures of an ordinary life. No expensive jewelry. No stacks of cash. Just memories. Noah's first pair of tiny blue shoes. His kindergarten drawings. A paper Father's Day card he had made years ago. It read in shaky handwriting. Mom, you're my mommy and my daddy. She pressed the card against her chest. The tears came before she could stop them. I kept every single one of your little treasures. She smiled through her tears. I wonder if you kept any of mine. That afternoon, she called Noah. He answered after several rings. Hi, Mom. His voice sounded tired. Hello, sweetheart. Everything okay? Yes. I just wanted to hear your voice. There was a brief silence. I'm actually on my way to a meeting. Oh. I won't keep you. Another silence. Then Eleanor forced brightness into her voice. I've been thinking. About what? You've worked so hard. You deserve your own life. Noah frowned. What do you mean? I think. She took a deep breath. I rely on you too much. His heart tightened. No, you don't. She continued before she lost the courage. I'm going to sell the house. Noah froze. What? I found a small senior apartment. It'll be easier for me. His chair scraped against the floor. Mom, why would you do that? She smiled, though no one could see it. This house is too big for one person. I've been thinking about it for a while. That was a lie. She had made the decision only hours ago. Mom. I don't want you making decisions because of me. I'm not. Another lie. I just think it's time. He rubbed his forehead. I'll come over tonight. No. I'm fine. I insist. She laughed softly. You always were stubborn. So were you. For a brief moment. It felt like old times. Then the call ended. That evening, Noah arrived carrying groceries. He placed bags of fruit, bread, and medicine on the kitchen counter. You didn't have to buy all this. I wanted to. Eleanor smiled sadly. You sound just like me. He looked around the house. You really mean it? I do. But why? She hesitated. Then quietly answered. Because I don't want to be the reason your future becomes complicated. Noah's eyes widened. Did Vanessa come here? Eleanor didn't answer. That was answer enough. His face darkened. What did she say? Nothing that matters. It matters to me. She walked over and gently touched his cheek. Noah. Listen to me. I didn't spend my whole life raising you so you'd spend yours worrying about me. He felt something heavy settle in his chest. You've never been a burden. She smiled. I know. I also know you're trying to make everyone happy. He looked away. I don't know how. She nodded. Sometimes. There isn't a way. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Noah whispered. Mom. What if I marry Vanessa? Eleanor's smile never faded. I'll dance at your wedding. What if she doesn't want us to be close? Eleanor looked into his eyes. The love between a mother and her son isn't measured by how often they meet. It's measured by whether they still carry each other in their hearts. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. She gently shook her head. For what? For everything. She wrapped him in a hug. My sweet boy. You don't have to apologize for growing up. He closed his eyes. For just a moment. He wanted time to stop. He wanted to be 10 years old again. He wanted life to be simple again. When he returned to the apartment, Vanessa was waiting. How is she? She's selling the house. Vanessa's shoulders relaxed. That's probably for the best. Noah stared at her. You knew? She didn't answer. You went to see her. I did. You asked her to let me go. I asked her to stop holding on. Noah's voice rose. She wasn't holding on. Vanessa stood. Really? She still lives in the same house full of your childhood. She waits every time you visit. She has built her whole world around you. And that's not healthy. Noah slammed his hand on the table. She's alone because she gave everything for me. Vanessa's face hardened. And are you supposed to repay that forever? The apartment fell silent. Vanessa walked to the window. Without turning around, she said quietly. I've made my decision. Noah's heart began to pound. If you want to marry me, your mother cannot be part of our daily life. No weekly visits. No surprise dinners. No dropping everything whenever she calls. And if we have children, I don't want them growing up in that little house. Noah stared at the woman he loved. He barely recognized her. She finally turned to face him. Her eyes were calm. Her voice was steady. I love you. But I won't share my husband. She slipped the engagement ring onto the table once more. This is your choice. Take the ring. Or walk away. For the first time in his life, Noah realized that choosing love should never have felt like betraying the woman who had given him life. But someone was about to make that choice for him. And Eleanor would soon pay the price for a decision she never made. The hardest tears aren't the ones people see. They're the tears that fall after you've smiled and said, I'm fine. They're the tears that land on old photographs. On empty dinner plates. On a pillow no one else will ever hold. Eleanor had spent her entire life protecting Noah from pain. Now she was about to disappear from his life. believing that was the greatest gift she could give him. She had no idea. The price of that gift would be far greater than she imagined. A week later, a large for sale sign stood in front of Eleanor's little house. Neighbors stopped to ask why. "You're leaving?" Mrs. Jenkins, who had lived next door for 20 years, looked shocked. Eleanor smiled politely. "It's just time. But this house is full of memories. It always will be." "And Noah?" Eleanor looked toward the porch where he used to play with toy trucks. "He has his own memories to make now." Mrs. Jenkins hugged her tightly. "I'll miss you." "I'll miss you too." Inside, cardboard boxes covered the living room. Each item she packed seemed to whisper another memory. She picked up an old baseball glove. Noah had begged for it when he was 12. She remembered working 3 extra night shifts just to buy it. She smiled. "You caught your first home run with this." Then came his graduation cap. His first school trophy. A tiny ceramic mug that read, "World's Best Mom." She laughed softly. "I wonder if you still believe that." Her laughter faded into silence. That evening, Noah arrived. He looked around in disbelief. "So, it's really happening." Eleanor nodded. "Come. I found something." She handed him a worn cardboard box. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside, neatly tied with faded blue ribbon, were hundreds of letters. Every birthday card he had ever made. Every drawing. Every school certificate. Even tiny notes that simply said, "Love you, Mom." Noah's hands trembled. "You kept all of these?" "I kept everything." He unfolded one crumpled piece of paper. It was written in crooked 8-year-old handwriting. "Mom, when I grow up I'll buy you the biggest house in the world and you'll never be lonely." His vision blurred. "I wrote this?" "You did." He covered his mouth. "I'm so sorry." She gently held his hand. "For what?" "I couldn't keep my promise." She smiled. "You already did." He looked confused. "You gave me something much bigger than a house. You gave me the privilege of being your mother." His tears finally escaped. "I'm failing you." "No. You've simply forgotten something." "What?" She touched his chest. "Home isn't a place. It's the people who never stop loving you." 3 days later, the house was sold. Everything Eleanor owned fit into a small moving truck. She stood in the empty living room one last time. The walls were bare. The echoes were louder than ever. She slowly walked from room to room. The kitchen where Noah had spilled flour trying to bake cookies. The hallway where his height was marked in pencil every birthday. The bedroom where she had stayed awake all night during his fevers. Finally, she entered Noah's old room. It was empty now. She closed her eyes. For a brief moment, she could almost hear a little boy laughing. "Mom. Look how fast I can run." A tear rolled down her cheek. "Run as far as you need to, sweetheart. But never run so far that you forget how to come home." She turned off the light, closed the bedroom door, and quietly whispered, "Goodbye." 2 weeks later, Noah and Vanessa became engaged. Everyone congratulated them. Beautiful photos filled social media. Elegant restaurants. Luxury vacations. Expensive gifts. People commented, "Perfect couple. Relationship goals. You two are made for each other." No one noticed. Noah smiled less in every picture. One Sunday afternoon, Vanessa walked into the living room carrying wedding magazines. "We need to finalize the guest list." "Okay. My parents. Your coworkers. My cousins." She handed him the list. "Your side?" He picked up a pen. Then quietly wrote, "Mom." Vanessa looked at the page. Then crossed it out. "No." He stared at her. "What do you mean, no?" "I told you. I don't want unnecessary drama. My mother isn't drama." Vanessa folded her arms. "She's emotional. She'll cry. She'll make everyone feel guilty." "No. She won't." "How do you know?" "Because she spent her whole life hiding her pain." Vanessa looked at him without blinking. "If she comes, I won't." The room became silent. Noah slowly put the pen down. For the first time, he didn't argue. He simply stared at the empty space where his mother's name had been. Then, with shaking fingers, he erased it completely. A few days later, his phone rang. "Mom." He answered. "Hi, sweetheart." Her voice sounded cheerful. "I heard you're getting married." He smiled weakly. "Yeah. I'm so proud of you." "Thank you. I won't keep you. I just wanted to tell you something." "What is it?" "I won't be coming to the wedding." His heart skipped. "Why?" She laughed gently. "Oh, old women get tired so easily. I don't want to slow anyone down." "Mom. And besides." She paused. "The happiest day of your life shouldn't include someone who reminds everyone of yesterday." His eyes filled instantly. "Who told you that?" "No one." Another lie. "I simply think it's time for me to step into the background." He couldn't speak. She continued softly. "I've watched you take your first steps. I've watched you graduate. I've watched you become a wonderful man. My job is finished." "No, it isn't." His voice cracked. "It will never be finished." She smiled through tears he couldn't see. "It already is. I love you, Noah." Before he could answer, the call ended. He stared at the silent phone for several minutes. Something felt terribly wrong. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing the same sentence over and over. "My job is finished." The next morning, he drove to the senior apartment where Eleanor had moved. He carried flowers, her favorite chocolate, and a heart full of words he should have said years ago. But when he reached apartment 214, the door was slightly open. Inside, the room was empty. The bed was neatly made. The closet stood open. On the small table lay a single white envelope, with only 3 words written across it. "For my son." Noah's hands began to shake as he reached for the letter. Because deep inside, he knew that whatever was written inside would change his life forever. Before you leave, ask yourself one question. If the person who sacrificed everything for you disappeared tomorrow, would your last memory together be one that brings you peace? Or one that keeps you awake at night? Sometimes life gives us a second chance. Sometimes it only leaves us with a letter. And Noah was about to discover which one fate had chosen for him. His hands trembled so violently that he could barely open the envelope. The paper inside was neatly folded. He immediately recognized the handwriting. It was his mother's. Small. Careful. The same handwriting that had signed every lunchbox note she had ever packed. Every birthday card. Every Christmas gift. A tear landed on the paper before he even began reading. "My dearest Noah. If you're reading this, it means you came looking for me. That alone makes this old mother's heart smile. Don't worry about me. I'm safe. I'm simply giving you the space I believe you need to build your own family. Please don't be angry with Vanessa. Love makes young people afraid sometimes. Fear can make good people say painful things. I hope one day she discovers that a mother's love isn't a threat. It never was." Do you remember the night you had a fever when you were 6? You were burning with heat, and you held my hand all night because you were afraid to sleep alone. I promised you that as long as I was alive, you would never face the darkness by yourself. I kept that promise. Now it's your turn to make your own promises. Keep them. Be kind. Be patient. And never let pride become louder than love. You once wrote that you'd buy me the biggest house in the world. My sweet boy, you already did. Every time you hugged me, every time you laughed with me, every time you called me mom, I lived in the biggest home anyone could ever have, a place in my son's heart. If that place has become smaller, don't feel guilty. Hearts grow in different directions as people grow older. Just promise me one thing. If you ever have a child, love that child the way I loved you. Then you'll finally understand why mothers forgive before they're asked. Don't look for me. Live your life. Smile often. And whenever it rains, remember that somewhere, your mother is still praying that you never get wet. I have loved you since before you opened your eyes, and I will love you long after mine have closed. Forever. Mom. By the time Noah reached the last line, he could no longer see the page. His tears soaked the paper. He fell to his knees. The hallway echoed with sobs he had buried for months. An elderly resident walking past quietly placed a hand on his shoulder. Son. Are you all right? Noah looked up with swollen eyes. She left. The old man glanced at the letter. No. He said softly. She left you her love. And judging by that letter, she never stopped. Noah rushed to the manager's office. Please. Where did my mother go? The manager looked at the computer. I'm sorry. Mrs. Eleanor Carter asked us not to share her new address. She said. The manager paused. If my son comes, tell him not to carry guilt. I carried enough for both of us. Noah closed his eyes. Even now. She was protecting him. He drove home in complete silence. Vanessa was arranging wedding invitations when he walked in. She smiled. There you are. Then she saw his face. What happened? He placed the letter on the table. My mother left. Vanessa looked confused. What do you mean? She sold her home. Moved away. And now she's gone. She picked up the letter and quietly read it. The room became still. When she finished, she slowly sat down. For the first time since Noah had met her. She had no clever answer. No argument. No defense. Only silence. Then tears slipped down her face. I didn't think. Her voice broke. I didn't know she loved you like this. Noah looked at her. She loved you too. What? She asked me not to blame you. Vanessa covered her mouth. After everything I said. She still protected me? Noah nodded. That's who she is. Vanessa cried harder than she ever had before. I've spent my whole life believing love was something you had to compete for. My parents were always too busy. I thought. If you loved your mother, there would be less love left for me. Noah gently answered. My mother spent her whole life proving that love doesn't run out. The wedding was cancelled. Not because Noah stopped loving Vanessa, but because they both realized they had rushed toward marriage without understanding what family truly meant. Months passed. Vanessa began volunteering every Saturday at a local senior center. She listened to elderly people tell stories about children they missed. Every story reminded her of Eleanor. She often cried on the drive home. Not from guilt alone, but from understanding. Nearly a year later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, Noah received a phone call. Is this Mr. Carter? Yes. I'm calling from Maple Hills Community Library. We believe someone here would like to see you. His heart raced. Who? A gentle voice answered from the other end. Your mother. He drove faster than he ever had. When he arrived, he searched every corner of the small library. Then, near the window, an elderly woman sat reading to a group of children. And that's why kindness always finds its way home. The children clapped. She looked up. Their eyes met. For a second, neither moved. Then Noah whispered, Mom. The book slipped from Eleanor's hands. My boy. He ran across the room like he was 6 years old again. She opened her arms. He fell into them. I'm sorry. He cried into her shoulder. I'm so sorry. She stroked his hair exactly as she had when he was a child. My sweet boy. You're home. I don't deserve you. She smiled through tears. You never had to deserve me. You were simply born. And that was enough. Vanessa slowly walked forward. She couldn't lift her eyes. I'm ashamed. Eleanor gently took both of her hands. You don't have to be. I hurt you. You were afraid. I judged you. You didn't know me yet. Vanessa broke down crying. Can you ever forgive me? Eleanor pulled her into a hug. My dear. Forgiveness is the easiest thing a mother's heart can give. The three of them stood there, holding one another. No pride. No anger. Only love. The kind of love that survives silence. The kind that waits. The kind that always leaves the door unlocked. A year later, their wedding finally took place. This time, the first seat in the front row wasn't reserved for a celebrity, or a wealthy guest, or an important business partner. It was reserved for the woman whose tired hands had built everything they were celebrating. When Noah walked down the aisle, he stopped beside his mother. He kissed her forehead. Then turned to every guest and said, If you admire the man I've become, please stand and thank the woman who made him possible. Every person in the room rose to their feet. The applause seemed endless. Eleanor lowered her head, embarrassed. She had never wanted recognition. She had only ever wanted her son. And in that moment, she realized something beautiful. She hadn't lost him. He had simply taken a long road to find his way back home.